I would say the elevator pitch is to make that introduction that maybe you wouldn't have otherwise, that either someone else is standing with you, they can introduce you, or you can do what you did is find a point of connection to establish contact with somebody that you might not. But you have to do it in a way that's memorable. Maybe it's doing something funny, but really thinking about what your objective is, who you are, what your business is, and presenting it that way. Hello, it's us. We're back. I'm Mimi Banks, founder and CEO of MB Social. And with me, as always, my co-host, board-certified dermatologist and dermfluencer, Dr. Dustin Portela.
Glad to be here. Let's step on the elevator and take a ride today.
Oh, I love it. Today, we're going to talk about your elevator pitch. What's an elevator pitch?
So an elevator pitch is a very short introduction about yourself and what you do. And you have to think of it as that experience of stepping on the elevator, recognizing that you're next to somebody you've wanted to meet, and you got to get your point across before they step off at their stop.
Could be the next floor. So what's your elevator pitch, Dustin?
You know, I haven't worked on this in a long time because we get, fortunately, a lot of incoming information here. But, you know, the last time I gave an elevator pitch was probably in New York. I was there doing a project for CeraVe, and I just happened to step on the elevator next to Dan Reynolds, the lead singer of Imagine Dragons. And I wanted to introduce myself and try to make a personal note. And it just turns out that I have a friend who interviewed his brother on a podcast, and I tried to make that connection and ask for a photo. And that was the objective of that elevator ride. I got a photo with him, and then I was so flummoxed, I got off on the same stop as him, and it happened to be at the gym of the Equinox Hotel. And then I couldn't get back on the elevator because I didn't have my key card. So it was kind of funny, but that was my last experience of an elevator pitch. But if I were to step on an elevator and I found myself next to the head of Neutrogena or CeraVe or the head of 8 Sleep or some other brand, the first thing that I would do is introduce myself, let them know that I'm a physician, that I create content, that I love their product, that I have posted about it, and I would love the opportunity to work with them. Obviously, we would make it known that I know them and know about them and their company.
It's interesting. The last elevator pitch I had was also at L'Oreal. I ran into somebody I used to work with who now has a quite senior position. And she said, "How are you? What have you been up to?" And also stumbled through my words. I realized how important it was at the time to say, you know, a few key things. What was I doing with my business? And was there anything notable that would be memorable and stand out for her? I think I got those through things. I let her know where we were. I let her know some key L'Oreal clients that we are working with, and was just glad to see her. And I think the message was passed because we did a few more projects, and she's the ultimate boss, but it's that same thing, is that you may have an elevator pitch, which is the basics of who you are, what you do, and what you really want them to remember about you.
Now, in your case, you already had that person's contact information, presumably?
I did.
And so how would you approach it if you didn't have their contact information? Are you going to ask them for their number, their email on the spot? Are you going to ask to connect with their assistant or secretary? How would you approach that?
On the spot, probably not. I would probably follow up afterwards, either get their email or connect with them on LinkedIn. It was great to meet you. Hi, I'm the person who awkwardly made that comment in the elevator. Or it was great to see you. Nice to meet you. I'm glad so-and-so introduced us. I would love to continue the conversation, which is exactly what I did after you and I had a lunch with more L'Oreal people at the Science of Skincare Summit, is that I reintroduced myself to people that we had lunch with, expressing how nice it was, talking about some things that we discussed at lunch, even going back to follow up about a few things that we had talked about and doing some research for questions that we had discussed, and reinforcing my interest in working in the future.
So would you ask for their email if you didn't have their contact information, or would you just rely on finding them on LinkedIn?
No, I would rely on somebody else or finding them on LinkedIn. I mean, it depends on the nature of the conversation, I think, at that time, but I don't think you have necessarily enough time. The time that it takes them to tell you what their email address is, that I'm going to be stumbling on my phone or trying to repeat it to myself to remember it.
Mm-hmm. So that's a good reminder. At least have a business card with you. You want to be able to give that to them. And we know that business cards don't always have a huge impact, but it's not going to lend you enough time to get their contact information or to give them your email address if you've got to write it down or ask them to type it into their phone. And so an elevator pitch is not necessarily the place you're going to accomplish whatever your key objective is with that person.
No, definitely not. It's more of the moment to make an impression. I would say the elevator pitch is to make that introduction that maybe you wouldn't have otherwise, that either someone else is standing with you, they can introduce you, or you can do what you did is find a point of connection to establish contact with somebody that you might not. But you have to do it in a way that's memorable. And I'm not saying maybe it's doing something funny, but really thinking about what your objective is, who you are, what your business is, and presenting it that way.
Yeah. And obviously, an elevator pitch does not have to take place on an elevator. And many times it is going to be somebody introducing you to somebody else at a banquet, a reception, a conference, something like that. And nowadays, my elevator pitch largely consists around my work in the mobile clinic. So if I get the opportunity to meet somebody, I usually will talk about my mobile clinic initiative because it is something that typically is impressive to people. It's a philanthropic type of work, very altruistic. And so it's something that they will remember because it's different than everybody else that just posts videos on social media and wants to work with the brand. Because I may just say, I'd love to reach out in the future and maybe get some samples for the mobile clinic.
So interesting and smart. That's a good way to stand out because that I think will be memorable. You're right. To say someone else is going to say, hi, I'm an influencer. Hi, I post videos on social media. I'm a TikToker, whatever it might be. Though I have to say in the medical professional world, it's less common that if you say I am a dermatologist and also influencer, I don't think that comes off well either though.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I don't think that leading that you're a TikToker or an influencer, I would probably say I educate through social media videos. I'm an educator on social media. I think that's a much more tactful way to say it. That's a little bit more credible than the word influencer. I almost never use that word. Other people might use that word, but I had a friend actually that bought me a gym t-shirt, a tank top that just says influencer on it. And I'll just wear that to the gym sometimes just as a joke.
That's amazing. When I'm in the elevator or when someone introduces me, I just tend to tailor my introduction to what I think will make sense for them. Not everybody understands social media. Not everyone understands content or even influencer or even TikTok. So I try to make it as digestible as possible.
And it's a good idea to know your audience. These are generally people that you're going to have some type of idea what they do, who they are, so you can tailor your message to them.
I think it's super important. And I do think that it's good to practice it. I think it's good to practice so it rolls off your tongue, specifically, as you were saying, if you're at a conference, if you're at a dinner, hi, this is my name, this is what I do. But that's also probably very New York. This is my name, this is what I do. But how do you think about that in a way that's compelling and that's memorable?
Yeah. Again, you want to try to introduce something that's a little bit unique about yourself that's going to stand out from other people because there's a lot of people that will give their name and they may have the exact same job as you as a doctor, especially if you're at a conference filled with people of your exact profession. So it is a good idea to practice it and understand what you can say that will make you stand out in some type of unique way and have that business card ready to go. When I created my business cards, I put my picture on it because I want them to remember who I am. I have links to my social on there. They can scan a QR code. So those are just things to reduce friction, get me into their phone or serve me up in their memory, when they get back, because they'll have a stack of business cards. And if they see my photo, it's just more likely that they're going to remember it. I'll follow up with them on LinkedIn. They'll see my picture again. So just finding some way to stand out among your peers.
That's true. Or even after you go to a lecture or a talk and you want to meet the person who is speaking and you want to either connect in the future or share why you thought the talk was interesting, it's always good to have that compelling response on the top of your head.
Yeah, just something that'll stand out for them that you can remind them about that you said in person and follow up in email, text message, or LinkedIn. Thanks for tuning into this episode of MedCreator 101. Today, we talked about the elevator pitch. What are you going to say about yourself when you meet somebody that you've been looking forward to meeting, whether that's at a conference, meeting an executive, a marketing director, or it could just be a celebrity. So when you meet them for the first time, it's a good idea to call them by name. Everybody loves to hear their name. And try to have something you can share that will stand out among your colleagues and peers, especially in a social situation where they're going to be meeting lots of people. Remember that little detail and follow up by email, text message, or LinkedIn connection, and you're more likely to stand out among the crowd as you try to build these relationships. Practice your elevator pitch in front of the mirror or practice it with colleagues or trusted friends so it rolls off the tongue easily. If you guys have any questions about building professional relationships or growing on social media, drop us a message on Instagram and we'll try to get back to you. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.